All right, this is the March 18th meeting of the Flood Prevention, Climate Resilience, and Erosion Control Board. We are calling the meeting to order at 7:01. I'd like to go around and have everyone say their names, who is attending for the record, please. My name is Becky Bunnell, Chair.
Keith Bradley.
John Fallon.
Greg Podolsky.
John Dilly, Vice Chair.
Carolyn Camlett, Secretary.
Charles Abercrombie.
And then we have two members of the public, if you could say your names.
Ian Bass. Dick Mosky.
And is there anyone on the phone? Hearing none, I'll assume that we're ready to go then. So I'm calling the meeting to order, and I'd like to, at this point, share with the board that Don Lamberti has tendered his resignation to me. He will be tendering it to the first selectman, I believe, in the next Board of Selectmen meeting. So there is now another open spot on the board. And then James Pazzi, I believe is the way I pronounce the name. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Isn't here now, but he has been put on the board as a member of the board. And then we can also, at this point, have anyone who is it's not a temporary member. What's the alternate may be elevated to full member for the purposes of voting today. So since there are two openings, Carolyn, you're an alternate. Would you like to be elevated to full member?
Yes, thank you.
Everyone approve on the board?
Yes.
So be it. And then you're not an alternate, are you? So John, would you like to be elevated up? Everyone approve, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we now have a full complement of our board for voting purposes. So I will go to the first agenda item, which is to hear, consider, and act upon the minutes of the 2/18 meeting, February 18th meeting. I'd like to also amend that first bullet point to also include the three special meetings, the 3:15 special meeting, which was held at Ian Bass's house, the 2:20 public meeting, and the 3:1 public meeting. So do I have your approval?
So the public meetings were the ones that we were at for the...
they were at the library.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Do I have your approval to amend that first point to include the special meetings? We will read out the minutes of those. Carolyn will read out the minutes of those, and we can approve them. They're very short minutes. So let's do the special meetings first.
Special meeting, the first one was held on February 20. It was the meeting was called to order at 7:01 p.m. The present were members of the FIRB board, David Murphy, who was the presenter, members of the public, and members of the town staff. Bullet number 1, Becky Bunnell, Chair, FIRB board gave a brief introduction. 2, David Murphy gave a presentation on the town future flood risks and outlined proposed approaches to master plan. 3, question and answer session. 4, adjourned at 8:46 p.m.
Does anyone want to discuss those minutes, make amendments?
I think that what we might need to add, Dick, we should add that there were no votes taken at that meeting. Is that appropriate?
That's typically what has been done in other boards, in our boards, just so that everyone knows we didn't ignore the topic.
But no, I
Like
mean,
you didn't have a vote, but it was not.
there were no votes taken, Dick made that point even on.
Okay, so we could put that on all of those, because I think when I typed up these minutes, I didn't put that on any of
Well,
them.
and so I didn't put it on the list on Sunday, so I'll add it, but,
Right.
so no official votes were, I'll get the language, but no official votes were taken by the board?
Yeah. So, does everyone, yes?
One other comment. One of the members of the public asked about the provision of the slides that were presented. Should we attach it to that or somehow also circulate that?
I was gonna, I was gonna get to that in our new business, but I was gonna actually place all of the suggestions that have come in by various members of the public, as well as the work Keith and everyone else, and the suggestions you've made, all the things, Ian Bass's slides when he sent them to me. We're all gonna put them all on the FIRB website.
Yes.
As well as those slides.
So maybe we should put a link to that for website on there to say all materials shared can be found at this. That way people can go to that. Because someone did ask during that meeting about the slides.
That they wanted to be shared?
They wanted them to be shared, and I also put a link to the recording.
I did send, the recordings are online, and the slides are online, because they were done by Zoom. So actually, technically, the slides are online right now. through
During the
Zoom link.
meeting.
Well, the Zoom link captured the slides, because
Right.
the Zoom link, and I sent the Zoom links to the town to put onto the town website. So the Zoom link for both of those special meetings are on.
So we could say, see the website?
I would just.
Why don't we put a link to that, which is the Zoom
Link
link?
to the website.
Because it has all the slides on it, and it has the actual comments.
So the
Yeah, you
link
do
to the
that.
Zoom for that meeting, you mean?
Yeah.
All right, I'll get that,
And we
we're
put a
all
link to
on
the
it.
FERB document storage place, so that
Well,
going forward, people.
this particular one is in the agenda and minutes on the town. You know how on the town website, you have your agenda minutes, then you have the backup, and then you have the recording, for each date.
Okay.
So this is the recording on the date of that. So, but we can absolutely send a link to that.
And the slides are separate.
The slides are part of that recording,
They're
because
part of
the
the
Zoom
recording.
itself was a Zoom of the computer.
Yeah.
So it had the slides
Yes.
plus the presenter people,
Every
and
once in a while when someone spoke up.
yeah, and it could hear very well when you're right up there.
Yeah.
It may not have captured all of the comments of the audience.
Someone watching it, as a guy who watched it, putting on the closed caption helped for a fair amount of it. But some of it came up just saying music, and I don't know, nobody was singing.
Keith was singing.
You were singing.
I was thinking,
You were Battle Hymn of the Republic.
and that's why everybody left. That's all.
Okay,
All right.
So do we have an approval of the
So,
February 20 minutes?
let me see if I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Motion approved as amended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So Keith seconded. Did you get who made each motion and seconded?
Who made the first motion?
Great.
Great.
Very good. Okay, and then,
Keith seconded. No discussion, so all approved?
Aye.
So moved. All right, the next meeting.
March 1, the meeting was called to order at 1:01 PM. Present members of the FERB Board, David Murphy, presenter, members of the public, members of town staff. Number 1, Becky Bunnell, Chair, FERB Board, gave a brief introduction. 2, Bill Gerber, First Selectman, shared his view on the importance of doing a master plan. 3, David Murphy, Resilient Land and Water, gave a presentation on the town future flood risk and outlined proposed approaches to master plan. 4, question and answer session, and 5 was adjourned at 2:24.
So I'd like to make a motion that we add the no votes were taken, whatever the
Right.
correct language is for that, to
Right.
this as well,
And the link to the Zoom?
and the link to the Zoom for this one.
A comment, I think when there is an audio recording or a video recording, I think that comment is superfluous, because you can always listen to the recording and see the totality of what was discussed and motions made and voted on or voted down or whatever. It's when, like in executive session, or if you have an offline meeting where minutes are taken, but there's no word-by-word recording, then it becomes significant, just to say that it was not an oversight.
I mean, I'm happy to put it on, it doesn't take much to add 5 words, but
Yes.
it's up to the board, whatever the
So a
board wants.
motion to approve.
We're gonna get called on transparency all the way through this process. The more information, the easier we can make it for people to get to it. I think the better off we're gonna be.
It doesn't hurt to put it on.
One comment that I might have missed before was, if people are looking for slides, maybe we should put the slides in there at some point, not just the
Well, the
video
slides
of
will
the
be on
slides.
there.
I'm saying the slides are on that presentation?
Yes, they're on there. Because the
They're
Zoom,
As slides. I'm
They're
saying,
on
not
the
as-
recording, but they're gonna be on the FERB website as well.
Okay, that's good.
but they aren't on yet. I have to
Okay.
figure out who's gonna do that. I'm hoping Jen Carpenter will do it for us.
Sure, yeah.
So do I have a motion to approve the March 1 minutes as amended, to add, link to the Zoom recording and no votes were
So
taken?
moved.
John moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
I'm gonna abstain, I wasn't there.
Okay. Any noes? Okay, so moved. And then the last meeting, special meeting, was the, March 15th meeting.
I did print all this up today, I had to call Dell because my new computer won't read the old printer.
Ooh. I hate it when that
So I
happens.
had to
You
open my old computer to
See-
print.
And it has
So you-
the same Wi-Fi.
You have to have a different driver or something for this.
No, it doesn't read, it's not reading the same system. All right,
Need
guys,
kids
no.
or grandkids is what you need.
I could maybe pull it up, because you sent it to me too.
Yes, and I thought I printed it out.
Let me just pull it up.
The answer to all technology questions.
No, even India could not answer this one.
All right, I will read it out.
Oh, thank you. Chuck has it, I'll find it as soon as we finish up.
That's a special call.
So this is the March 15 special call, public minutes. The meeting was called to order at 2 p.m. Present were members of the FIRB board and members of the public. The FIRB board members toured the area around Penfield Pavilion and Lowry Boulevard at Fairfield Beach Road. With the assistance of a Lowry resident, the board could visualize flooding during nor'easter storms as well as hurricanes and superstorms. The board is gathering information on future flood risks as the town master plan is written and implementing. The meeting was adjourned at 4 p.m.
Would anyone like to make any comments? Should we make the same, no votes were taken?
Sure.
And there is no recording of this one. There is no link.
There were pictures shared.
Well, I've asked Ian to send them to me, and I'm gonna post them on the FIRB website. So just to review, what I was proposing to do with Jen is create a special section on the FIRB website in our document storage area. And in that, we would post all of the comments that have come from residents, all of the comments and suggestions we've made, the actual slides for the public meeting, and anything else that comes up as we continue through this process. So there would be a constant record on that. And then my suggestion is we have a mailing list right now of the FIRB of about 240 people. I don't have all the Rooster River people probably on there. If you want to send me the Rooster River, I'll add them too. This is for the newsletter.
No, I understand that. I'm just not sure I can give, all I asked him for was for the Rooster River. I'm not sure I can give out theirs.
Okay, what we can do then is,
I can ask them in the,
why don't you ask them in the next email whether they'd like to be getting the FIRB newsletter, which would then share every time, there's a major update on the master plan. I think we would send out a newsletter to say, here's what's happened, here's the next steps.
actually, I did include that in the last one as well, but I'll do it again. That's fine.
So that way we can keep people up to date, and 240 people is not a lot, but at least it's a start, and maybe we could also ask Bill to put updates in his newsletter.
Yeah.
So I think we should do that as well. All right, let's move on to the actual meeting minutes then, the board meeting minutes of 2/18. Did everyone get a chance to read those? Those were sent out with the agenda. And does anyone have any comments?
I see them.
I didn't see them.
Did I not attach them?
Yeah, there were 5 attachments on your last email, but
It was there.
who was there? Yeah, your last one was this master plan, but
Yeah.
but the one before that,
When I sent the agenda
Oh,
out,
yes, there were. Yep, I missed that.
I think I sent the agenda out with the minutes. Would you like time to read the minutes, in which case we can defer this till next month?
I would prefer that.
Okay, so, could you make a motion to defer to next
I'm gonna
month?
make a motion to defer till next month, so I have a chance to review the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, well, so we're gonna defer approval of the February 18th, board meeting minutes to next month, to give everyone a chance to review. Did someone just join the call? Sounded like
I
someone.
heard it.
All right, so I'm going to then move on to update and discussion and status of active projects. I had shot a quick note to Bill Hurley just to see if he could give me any updates on any of the active projects, and I unfortunately did not get a chance to hear back yet, and I wasn't able to give him a call. So I don't have a formal update. I did sort of bike by the Turney Creek, and that seems to be proceeding. I did not get a chance to go by Perry's Green, but I think that's virtually all but completed. I think they were just going to do some landscaping and grass remediation and some last minute things. Penfield Pavilion, if those of you who have been there, well, we were obviously there. Those of you who were there on the 15th saw that they have done all the grading now. They'd originally taken 19 trucks of sand away from the site because there was a big pile of sand, and that was being stored at the DPW yard to be brought back to the site once FEMA had approved it. I noticed when I went there, that they had taken additional sand out as they tried to, make the hills, I guess, more of a smooth slope. So my guess is they probably took an additional 8 to 10 trucks worth, it sounds like, because they took quite a bit of sand versus when I was there when they first took the 19 trucks. So, but I've been assured by Eli that this sand is being kept for us and will be returned to the site for our use, either in a berm, if we want to do a temporary berm, or just to lay out in front of the site so that we can get a little bit more elevation.
Where are they holding it?
DPW yard.
Okay.
And he has said that he is not letting anyone else use that sand.
What's that?
So.
Still hasn't had anything to it.
What?
Still hasn't had
Oh,
Yeah.
Probably a bad week for that, yeah.
So those are the key projects that I'm aware of. I did not get a chance to go check out the railroad bridge progress. I had been there about 2.5 weeks ago because I was out hiking with my dog, and it did look like things were progressing there. They have it all cordoned off, but I couldn't get it.
Where is that? What
Over on Pine Creek area where they have, there's a railroad bridge that
Oh,
goes
inside
behind the
that
ball
big area.
field.
Yeah.
They're redoing the self-regulating tide gates there.
Gotcha.
I was coming from an area at the side that I couldn't get close enough to really see much, but it did look like they were progressing that. So that's all I have right now for an update of active projects. If anyone else is aware of any other projects, I have not heard anything other than that Rooster River is proceeding, and that FEMA was given 3 dates in March by Eli to come and do a site visit, and I did not hear back whether they actually accepted any of those dates. So those are my only updates right now on active projects. Anything else? Any other questions?
Just tangentially associated with that, with the railroad bridges, I just noticed that, recently West Haven has installed, a permanent swing gate at least one of their, railroad underpasses that's prone to flooding. Just looks like it's a much better solution than having to send Public Works out to put sawhorses down. And it's something that the town might want to look into.
We actually have, in our capital plan, I was making a list of all of the items that had anything to do with flood and erosion. And one of them was, actually a railroad bridge type, thing that they had put in for I think they put it in for 2026 though. Let me see if I can find the amount of money they put it in for. Now I'm not seeing it. Yeah, I had seen it in the previous version of the master plan. I wonder if they took, or the capital plan, I wonder if they took it out. But I had seen a railroad bridge type, thing that had been put in by DPW.
And they had permanent signs attached to it, so, very quickly deployed.
Yeah. And they have water sensors that can.
Well, this one didn't have that.
Just a plain metal swing gate?
Just plain metal swing gate, but with the big yellow diamond cross.
So someone still has to come and deploy
Somebody
it.
still has to come and deploy it, but it's one person, swing it open, throw the lock on, and you're done.
Yeah. That'd be cheaper than having a sensor which may malfunction. Although I was reading about sensors and they are very fond to say that they work really well, but I don't know if they actually do.
Is there maybe I'm getting ahead of things. Is there signage that can be put there just that stays there that almost shows lines that says, because it dips down, you have the sign here and it says,
Don't go through if it's here?
No, if it's, this is 3 feet, this is 4 feet, so to stop people from going in there. Because some people might not know, it looks like there's nothing and they don't know how deep it is, but if they can just see, almost like a height chart of lines
Yeah.
and it says, you're at 3 feet in there, so.
It's not a bad idea. I will
Now,
say that people are surprisingly resilient. There was, in the last storm, we had someone sitting on top of their car because their car had stalled out,
Yeah.
and another car still tried to drive through, despite the fact that
But
this
yeah, I
person
just
was
wonder why they
sitting
don't-
on top of their car
Yeah.
with water up to the doors.
Anyway, I just think something you could do that's just free, basically, it stays there. Is you
Yeah.
paint the lines and just say, or,
Yeah.
you know, blue, red, whatever, and.
It's actually a good backup in the event that some whoever's supposed to do the swing gate or whatever doesn't get there.
Yeah.
At least it's a secondary safety. It's a good idea. All right, so let's move on to item number 3 on the agenda, which is an update on the master plan. So I've had been, that's not me, that's you, okay. I had been emailing Wendy, our project manager, to try to understand the date for our meeting, which was supposed to be roughly 6 weeks after the February 7th meeting, and I have not been getting any responses. But luckily today, the Weston and Sampson team copied me on an email to Wendy and to other people, giving me a draft work plan with dates and a recommended site visit dates and dates for the meeting. So I don't know which one Wendy is going to pick, but I can tell you the dates that were on the email that came from Weston and Sampson, because I do need to notice them if we're all going to go to it. So the Weston and Sampson said that we would be available for team meetings on March 20th, which would be Thursday, 2 days from now, from 11 to 12, or the 21st from 9 to 10 or 12 on.
Sorry, what was the second one?
321, 9 to 10 or 12 on, or 324 from 9 to 10:30 or 11:30 to 2.
Can't write that fast, so I need to see if I'm writing down.
I will send this out to you guys,
Oh, okay.
too.
What was the first one on the 20th?
You can read
The
that.
20th, but I can tell you that I don't know if any of these will be accepted, because I don't know if Wendy can make any of these. These were today was the first day I've even heard these dates. And they're coming up very quickly. So I would like Wendy to confirm which one they are, so we can notice the meeting.
And these meetings would include the.
It's only a 1-hour meeting.
But it's the consultant, it's Wendy, and any member of the board, who would be the attendees?
It'd be any member. I told Wendy that I wanted to make available all these meetings. I would want them to be available for any member of the board, so that I would be noticing them as public meetings.
What's to be accomplished at these site visits in an hour?
Well, so this is not the site visits, this is the, so what the consultants have said is that every roughly 6 weeks, we will have an update meeting where they will update us on what they've done. So what they have been doing during this time is they've been reading all of the pre-reads that we had given them about all the different sections of our town, all the studies we've done. We gave them a list of stuff to read. They've also been getting the GIS mapping data from MetroCog, and they've been, doing their research to try and understand where the gaps are in their knowledge. So the purpose of this particular meeting would be for them to review back to us what they've learned and to tell us what their gaps are and what they still need to know. So that would be the objective of this first meeting. And the objective would be every 6 weeks or so, we would have a team meeting, and just to share the progress. So the other thing I will be sending out to you is, as attachments to the email that I was copied on today, I got a draft for town review work plan. So as I said, their target completion date was actually on the 14th of March to do a summary memo of all of the review of existing data and summary of data gaps. And they were going to do a list and table of report studies and data sets that they reviewed and identification of data gaps. So that would be the content of the meeting that we would have, is what data gaps there are. The site visits, they recommended 3 days, and they wanted to do it at high tide, lunar high tide, which is 3/27, 3/28, and 3/31. Again, I don't know if those are confirmed, because Wendy has to confirm whether those dates work, and we need a member of the town to take them around. So I wrote a note to Bill Hurley just asking if he was free those days. I'd like to go on as many as I can.
This is lunar high tide, you said?
Yeah.
They wanted to do the site visits at high tide.
Same days, 3/20, 21.
They would do all 3 of these days. This would be the 27th, 28th, 31st. So 27, 28, 31st. But again, I'm giving you these days as their recommendations. These have not been approved and confirmed.
And where are they gonna visit each day?
We haven't decided that. I know, obviously, we would do a coastal day, at least. We would do a Rooster River Day, and then probably, Mill River, other parts of town, downtown, underpass, but we have not decided what is being done when. But if there are certain particular ones that you would like to go on and can't make all of them, let me know, and I'll try to arrange for that content to be done on that date.
What time of day would these be?
I'm assuming,
Whatever high tide is, I guess.
well, I'm assuming most of the day they would be actually doing the site visits, but we would make sure that the coastal ones were done. I'm not sure if they would want low tide or high tide. I would think that if they were gonna explore things like tide gates and stuff, they might want low tide. So I'm giving you only what I know through an email. I've not been able to touch base with Wendy or get any more information. So I will try to track that down, chase it down tomorrow and get back to you, but I just wanted you to have these dates as at least preliminary dates.
And what happens at these? Is there a presentation, is there discussion, is there?
So what I've done
walking around?
what I've done on prior site visits is that we basically drive around in a couple cars following each other, and then we go walk the area. And we look at it and we say, okay,
Yeah, okay.
I mean, Rooster River would take a lot more than one day.
Well, they'd originally budgeted for 4 days of site visits.
Well, no, I'm just saying, to really see the river itself.
Yeah, so we may need more time. We may need additional ones. And I think the key is to have someone on those site visits who can share with them what we want them to see. Otherwise, it becomes
That's kind of what I'm like.
kind of meaningless. So that's why I asked if Bill Hurley was around. Like, Bill Hurley would be able to take them to the various places we're planning on detention basins. He'd be able to take them to the places that you noted on your, on your research.
What I've done is really small amounts of the river, so
Yeah.
there's a lot more to be done.
Yeah, well, he would take them to where he's looking to possibly do the dredging. He would take them to all the places where he's looking to clean out the stream. I mean, so he would, I'm assuming Bill Hurley is gonna be critical to these site visits, because he's really the one, as our town engineer, who really knows all of the ins and outs of all these sections.
Would they be leveraging, though, all of the information they've looked at?
Yeah.
Up to these meetings to say, because there's other studies that's already happened, right, that said this area is an issue, this is an issue. They could say the gap, so they might take us to where the issues are and what the suggestions have been, and maybe that's what we should
That's
be
why
looking
they've
at.
spent these last 6 weeks reviewing all the studies, the prior studies. So they will now have, let's say the Jennings Beach up through Ash Creek, up to Riverside Drive to Route 1, that section. There's a whole, Malone and Broom did a whole study in 2017, outlining all these different ways that they could add resilience to that site, with graphs and pictures and diagrams and schematics. And so they would now see the site itself, as opposed to just reading a 27-page or however many pages document it was. So the idea is for them to actually hands-on.
This is for them, this isn't,
It's not for us.
We're just.
It may be for some of the people who are new to the board,
Yeah.
but it's for them.
Okay.
Because their deliverable at the end of this is to give us a master plan of every part of town. What are the most cost-effective, smartest, efficient ways to basically add resilience to our town? And we don't want them to start from scratch. We didn't pay them to start from scratch. Some of what they'll be doing is evaluating the work that's been done in the past, and possibly coming up with new ideas, but for the most
It's their
part,
agenda then, though. I mean, they should know it's their agenda, I would imagine then.
it's our agenda to show it to them, but they should also ask us to see certain things if they have questions.
Right, okay.
But it's for them, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, when we go someplace, like you said, we can walk around, but is that the most productive use of time, or is there an agenda of, we wanna see this hole, we
we'll be
wanna
doing
see that
studies.
berm, we wanna see.
Just from someone who looks at a lot of paper and a lot of screens, you can learn one heck of a lot by putting boots on the ground and eyes on the problem in about 5 minutes. You can spend 3 days and not get in the office.
It's really important to see it.
Oh, no, I understand that, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
we ought to see it, that we.
Yes, the intent is,
To Keith's point, that there's a lot there that.
They're not gonna
Just
see
so that
every
everything
single
looks
part of, let's be honest, they're not gonna see every single part of Rooster River, but they'll go to the areas where we've already identified
Right,
key
okay.
problem areas are, where we've already done studies, and if there's other places we want them to see, we should make sure that that gets put into these site visits.
And I think we should also say that this is an ongoing process of, at least for the Rooster River, of looking at, you know,
Right.
it's not gonna end because they've had their site.
Well, no,
We'll give them more information going on.
So what they do after those site visits, basically, is they do their coastal and erosion flood modeling and their riverine risk assessment and the pluvio assessments, and that'll take them till the end of May. So they're basically, after these site visits, gonna do the sort of modeling and assessment after they've now seen the actual site, and then come back, and then they would start basically doing the visualization and the, another set of meetings, basically. So I think that's where we are with the consultants. What I have started to put together, and I sent this out right before the meeting, so I don't expect you to have read it. I did print out a couple copies. And so what I'd like, basically, I'll give you some copies so you can just get a sense of this. But what this really is a commentary from FIRB on what we want them to evaluate as they go through these site visits at a fairly high level, but what I'm also doing is putting an appendix at the end where I'm gonna put every single comment that we've received, either through the open public meetings, through the next door, through the FIRB comment, you know, send a comment to the board section, and Keith, I'll put your things on, and Greg, I'll put your suggestions for some of the grass things, but everything that we have identified as a suggestion, a comment that has come in to date, will be in the appendix, and I'm gonna
I
ask.
did send you that slideshow from floodproofing.com with their whole kit of all different floodproofing products. Half of them are for buildings, which doesn't mean much to us, but a lot of them were for larger areas.
Okay, good. I'll include all of that stuff, or links to it. Because the intent is also to put the same stuff on our website. So what I tried to do was, for the coastal segment of the plan, I just basically laid out what we as a town had decided and recommended to do, that we wanted to evaluate options to protect from most major nor'easters and non-hurricane level storms up to elevation 12 of NAV 88. And then I just put some questions down, you know, I want them to tell us, is this realistic? And should it be elevation 11? Would it make a difference in cost and feasibility? Can this be done in a way that maintains the small town character of the area? So no large 6-foot metal walls, because we're still a beach community. Can parts of this be done through permanent structures and part through temporary mitigation structures that can be deployed before a major storm? Sunny day flooding, how do we deal with that? Nature-based solutions where feasible. Let's see, and I actually have a question, and Greg, you might be able to help with this too. I mean, I know that when you make a berm, you have to make the berm higher, you have to make it wider, which goes into the marsh, which when you take away marshland, DEEP makes you replace that somewhere else at a 3-to-1 ratio, which is kind of a pain. But I think, but we have a section of marsh that is a non-functioning marsh between Reef and Roland, and if we could get that functioning, could that be used as our 3-to-1 ratio? I don't know if they'll let us do that.
You know who would probably know that would be Emmeline.
Yeah. So I'll ask her, but I wanted them to weigh in on that, because that would be really nice, because there's a couple places where we're gonna need a berm, and we're gonna need to encroach in the marsh, and I'm not sure how we're gonna get our 3-to-1 ratio, if we do that.
What is, I'm not sure what you call it, what is it waking up the marsh mean and do to the people that are on the marsh now that might like it being dormant?
Well, right now, it's not.
Probably invasives, right?
It's got a lot of invasives, it's got a lot of phragmites, they burn it down, right? I think people have been allowed to cut it down, maybe not burn it down, right now.
We don't burn it.
We don't burn anymore?
I don't think so. Too close to houses.
Yeah. So they've been allowed to cut it down. But right now, the water flow does not get into that marsh to the extent that
Also,
needed
if you
to
can
make
get
it a
salt
healthy
water
marsh.
in there, it'll help knock down the frags
Yes,
also.
it would. So it's not a healthy marsh. It's a marsh. I guess you'd maybe call it an upland marsh, because it has.
There's a program to improve the culvert across Reef Road, because conservation wants to restore that marsh over
Right.
there.
But what I wanna know is, can we use that restored marsh to make up our 3-to-1 ratio?
Should be able to.
I would hope so, but we'll check with, Emmeline hopefully can tell us, but.
Could also conceivably put sheet piling on the back edge of it, so you intercept it, so you don't have to extend the, you don't
Sheet
have
piling
to
on the
extend
berm.
for the berm, sheet piling to shore up the back end.
Oh, I
of
see
the
what you mean,
berm
so you
flows
don't
to
need to make the berm
So you
this,
don't have to be.
so if our berm
flat.
is like this, and we want it to be higher, which means
It's
we have to go
trapezoidal,
out.
generally
you
trapezoidal
just
in
make it more
shape,
like that.
but if you can shore up the back leg, you don't have to extend it back as far.
That'd be good, and with less 3-to-1 that we
And
can
then
make
you
up
don't
the
have
difference.
to disturb the marsh.
Yeah, this is what we need them to tell us. This is why you and they.
Without seeing the details,
Yeah.
right now, that's just pure conjecture, but it's a very real possibility.
Okay. And then the last thing I asked, and what I'd like you guys to do as you evaluate this, is to think of your own questions that you want to add to this list. So these are just my questions, but I'd like this to be a board set of questions and
So be clear,
comments.
these are questions that would be presented to Sampson and, you know, in.
As they're doing their site visit, we'd like them to also think about these things as they're doing their site visit. So one of my other questions was, we've got a $35 million South Benson pump station, which includes the pump station itself as well as the drainage systems that you would need to make it feasible. That's a lot of money, and I just don't know enough to know, but would a series of smaller portable pumps be more financially feasible and maybe do, almost the same job?
The problem is deploying them in a timely fashion.
Right, but could we deploy them in a timely fashion?
That becomes, how much notice do you get of the storm that's coming in?
We'd get a fair amount of notice.
And,
With a hurricane, kind of, like a Sandy, we got notice.
and then you've got the problem of the maintenance. Pumps don't like to sit idle for long periods of time and then get started up and have to work real hard.
Okay, so we would have to do maintenance
Yeah,
in
there's
the 3 days before the
maintenance,
storm.
and you've got to run them periodically. They don't like being run empty. I'm not saying that it's not doable, but I'm saying there's a lot of problems that come
Yeah.
with.
Well, wouldn't the South Benson pump
portable
station have the
pumps.
same thing? Because that would also
Typically,
be
you would
dormant.
you would have that, so basically it would be able to run quite frequently. It might not be as energy efficient, but you can generally run them so that you can program them so that they will
They just run themselves, like a generator.
fairly regularly, so that they'll keep themselves,
Right.
in pretty good order.
Well,
The same way as like the sewage pump stations, they'll pretty much run forever,
yeah.
because they're constantly running.
Well, I think it's
When
worth
they-
asking the
When they run,
question.
you shut them off,
because
shut them off.
35 million is a lot of money.
Yeah, oh yeah.
If there is a more cost-effective way to do something somewhat similar, we should at least explore it.
If I get a 10-second, what is it? There's a building or are there a series of basins and catches and pumps all over the place, or how does?
So they'd have to put new drainage in, drainage pipes in, basically,
Right.
and it's hard to put drainage pipes in a coastal area because there's not much pitch and stuff, but the concept would be and I don't know if it'd be a big building, I don't think it'd be a big building, but it would be a pump that would be able to basically take the coastal area as a basin,
The whole
right?
grid, it just pushes or.
It would be able to take it out within a period of 2 to 4 hours.
Through the pipes that are already there, though.
Yeah.
One of the biggest elements is you need to have a basin to receive the water, because you never want the pump to run dry.
Right.
So there's always gotta be a reservoir so that the pumps don't get starved for water. And that's probably one of your biggest and most expensive elements.
So we would have to have the reservoir near the pump? I don't actually know how it works.
It would be within the confines of the area.
Okay.
I'm not looking at the plans, I'm just talking in general
Yeah.
terms.
I don't even know if we have actual formal plans, but we have a budget, so we must have some kind
Well,
of,
somebody's gotta have.
There are preliminary plans,
We must
I
have
have a
those.
copy somewhere, I will send them around to the board.
okay. So on, the Pine Creek segment, one of the things that we did not get overtopped on the Pine Creek dike, but it was only because the wind changed direction, that it wasn't overtopped and sandy. And when we had originally gone to the Pine Creek neighborhood, and I believe we had asked whether they would be open to the idea of raising the dike, I think it was like 4 to 6 feet or something. They all said, oh no, it would wreck our view. But I think you could probably get away with raising it a foot or two and not have an outcry. So would that be something that we should be considering as a possibility? And then Sasko Hill to the water treatment plant. This is basically, where the water treatment plant is. There's also a high ground where the solar array is. And then you go back basically through the marshes. There's a little residential neighborhood, and then you get to the high ground of Sasko Hill. So the idea was and then there's a walking berm that goes through those marshes. So the idea was to raise that berm to elevation 12 again, and we'd have to figure out how to get that elevation 12 to go all the way through the little housing community, and then also the road itself would probably have to be slightly raised, or at least a hump, to get it over to Sasko Hill. So how would that all actually work? Army Corps had done a scenario of it, and I'm not sure if there were any easements that we needed or what, but we should look into that. Wastewater treatment's already been hardened. The hardest section we're gonna have on the coast is segments 4 and 5, and that's the wastewater treatment plant to Jackie Durrell, because as we saw when we walked that area, lots of houses, a little wall of elevation 8, there is no easy way that will ever be permitted to do anything on the beach side that can get that to elevation 12. So the question is there a deployable, temporary structure that can work? What would that look like? Is there some kind of quasi-permanent, quasi-deployable? What would that look like? That's going to be what they're going to really have to spend some time looking at. Penfield Pavilion area, again, we all know some of the things that people have talked about. We've got the DIC plan, which is the raise the road, has the wall. We've got the beach nourishment on the beach side, which would then flow under the building. What other options do they think we should have? How should we be looking at them? Or is there some combination of temporary for that? And we also said that we want them to look at pluvial flooding, particularly at the intersection of Penfield Road and Fairfield Beach Road, as well as the dirt parking lots across the street. Should become very compacted. Then we had the beach club area. Fairly similar concerns in the beach club area. We just maybe possibly extend the Penfield solutions down to that section and tie it into the Jennings Dune. Then we have the whole Jennings Beach to Ash Creek, Riverside Drive, Turney. That was the Malona McBroom 2017 plan. I thought it was a fairly good plan, but I think they should look at other options. Should they maybe, instead of going around Riverside Drive, should you just raise Turney? I'm not sure what the best options are, but I think people, they need to be coming back to us with what sorts of things they would be doing there. And then finally, the Fairfield Beach Road Peninsula. This area is comprised of roughly 200 houses between the Sound and Pine Creek. And we don't expect significant conceptual work in this section at all, but we did want to address sunny day flooding. So how could we improve the catch basins, which right now water comes up out of them at high tides and floods the roads? How can we work with DEEP to allow residents to put in slightly higher bulkheads on Pine Creek? Because right now at really high lunar tides, and we get the creek comes right up over the bulkheads and right onto the street, just pours onto the street. And that's ridiculous that DEEP won't let us raise those. And so can they work with us on that with DEEP? And what does it mean? DEEP should be thinking about, they're telling us we have to elevate our houses with sea level rise, and they keep sort of changing the BFE on that. Well, shouldn't we be raising our bulkheads to protect critical infrastructure, which is things like roads, which has a safety concern? Ambulances going down
Especially
it.
on a peninsula.
So, we may end up having to just abandon that road at some point in the future. That is something that towns can do. They choose to abandon the road, in which case, if residents want to keep living there, they're on their own.
Is that a road?
Fairfield Beach Road, the peninsula?
Fairfield Beach Road along the peninsula, is that a road, or is that just a series of easements through properties?
It
Did
is.
the town ever accept that as a road?
It did. The very end of it, past the turnaround, is a private road, and the town does not take care of that.
I know the town takes care of it, but I don't know that the town has title to it.
It is a series of easements, that is correct, but they have always taken care of it.
Yeah.
And so
If you don't own it, you can't abandon it. You can cease to service it.
So then they would have to reduce our taxes, because you can't charge someone just as much if you're not gonna be sending ambulances and fire trucks and police down there.
Ambulances, fire trucks don't care whether a road's private or public.
Well, if that's not a passable road, which at some high tide.
Snowplow.
That's more snowplow and maintenance than
Yeah.
it is ambulances and police. They're gonna go anywhere in town, whether it's private or public. I think you're talking more about, utilities and.
Yeah. Well, then you become an association and hire people to plow.
Yes.
That's what you can do.
That's what you do.
Well, that's what they did with Pleasure Beach when the bridge went out and, Bridgeport decided not to rebuild the swing bridge, so they couldn't get emergency services to the cottages in Stratford, and ultimately Stratford didn't renew the land lease on the properties.
But there's no land lease here.
No, but the thing is, the town
can choose.
as far as I know, and things may have changed, 'cause I haven't done any survey work there in maybe 15 years, but there were properties that their deed went from Pine Creek.
Right now, the deeds do go across.
And there
is an easement.
An easement, but it's not a road.
So what does that mean then about the town's oversight of bulkheads and height restrictions if they don't if they don't have any access?
I'm raising more questions than I have answers.
All right, well, so those are questions that we need to answer. The Southport shoreline, we know that we've recently replaced the bulkhead at Perry's Green, and the Ye Olde Yacht Club has plans to significantly increase their bulkhead heights on their property because they're a water-dependent use. But beyond that, we want to just understand where the low points are and, is there any recommendations they would make in the Southport area. Riverine and downtown. So from a Mill River watershed standpoint, there was a guy who came to the March meeting who is, I think, the guy who kind of oversees St. Mortar Dam. I think his name was either Warren or Russell or something like that. I have his name. I think we should have these guys meet with him, just because I know it's a private dam, but it does have flood potential. If it were to ever break, it could absolutely devastate.
You're catastrophic.
So I think we should really have the consultants at least understand. I don't know if it's a Class A or what. I don't know what Class dam it is. I know we can look it up. It's not a big deal to look it up, but I don't remember what it is. But I'd like to just have an assessment of that done as part of this, whether there's anything that we think we should be doing. If there was a intense rain event, is there any potential that could be overtopped? And is there any risk to the dam itself, to downstream neighborhoods? The Rooster River watershed, Keith, you've been sort of doing all the site visits so far. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, we're going to write them all up, and we'll. So I guess they'll just review that. Is there anything in particular you want them to look at? Again, I will be putting all of your write-ups as an appendix to this. But if there's things you want them to look at specifically.
It's pretty much in those. There have been 4 other recommendations. I can just give those to you if you want.
If you could just send them to me, any recommendations you've got that you want them to evaluate, we're going to have them look at them all, and then.
I mean, the one that was interesting, and it actually came from your questions about if you wanted to do deployables, how do you do that? Who does it, right? And one of them got mentioned was the volunteer fire department model, right? You have a volunteer corps that practices and does all the things to get ready for these events. You have it as a over redundancy, So if you need 100 people, if you need 10 people, you have 100, right, or signed up.
If they're on vacation,
Or
yeah.
they're gonna be doing whatever. Another recommendation was the, you know, we're talking about these deployables, but you have an emergency doc is the only guy that has, not the Army, other people have looked at them, obviously. But but maybe to have some of those people come and give us a look at a demonstration or a presentation about what they might.
Well, I want our consultants to do that homework for us,
Okay, fair. You know,
right? I mean, that's what we're paying them for.
But that, you know, who do they talk to? Who are they gonna talk to, right? In terms of.
Well, I'd like them to actually talk to other towns who have put them in real-world flood situations and understand what is the impact of a real-world flood situation, not a guy spraying a fire hose, which I think tries to stimulate a real-world flood situation, but.
Another was that, especially around Olympus Park, the bioswales have a real, potential there because a lot of those trees have been cut down and now maybe another way of doing that. The idea about is for deployables, if it's not gonna be done as a town-wide piece, that have, because they are expensive. I mean, there's, you know, 3 feet is $200, that if you had it as a subscription basis, the town buying on a subscription, a large number of them could get it as a, less than retail price. And, there was one more. Whatever it was.
Well, we'll capture
I'll
it.
put those in.
Just make sure, send them to me and I'll capture them all. So that's kind of, the thing we would give them for the site visits. Can I ask that you all review this document, which was sent out ahead of this? And I don't know, the first site visit potentially could be as early as the 27th. So is there any chance you could, I'd like to give them some time to have this. Is there any chance you could do this in a couple days, by like the 20th, or not? If it's not enough time, let me know. But if that is enough time to just to feed in any additional comments you have, that would be helpful, so that we could give them time to.
I mean, what's on the Rooster River watershed here is fairly sparse in terms of.
Well, I've kept going after I printed these 4 pages, and I actually have took all the pictures and all the documents you've given me.
Or in that.
Will be in the appendix.
Hey, got it.
So everything I'm just slowly adding them on.
I'm just thinking of, you know, what, to come up with what questions we want to ask them.
Yeah, if there's questions you want them to evaluate, let's do that.
And you want that by the 20th?
If possible, and if you think you need more time, that's fine, we'll just make it work. It's just less time for them to have with it.
One question you asked, and it's also in here, for elevating the roadway. West Haven recently elevated 3,900 feet of Beach Street, at a cost of approximately $9 million.
And that was how many feet?
3,900.
That's actually a large, that's 3,900 feet?
3,900 feet, $9 million.
Linear feet or?
Linear feet, yeah.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, now, to be fair, they didn't have to make much in the way of adjustments for adjoining properties, because there weren't that many.
We're gonna have a lot of driveways and adjustment things that.
But I think in some areas, I think they raised the road as much as 4 feet.
Wow. I'm actually.
They finally got around to making the wastewater treatment plant accessible during excessively high tides.
You couldn't get to it at high tide?
You were either in it or you were out of it for the duration of the storm.
Wait for it to go down.
Yeah.
Wow. The last thing I had, from flood and erosion and, the resilience plan is, I think we probably as a board need to reach out to some of the other town commissions and let them know we're doing this. I hope they know, but if they don't, go to their boards, let them know we're doing this and ask to what degree they want to be involved and review it. So the 3 commissions I think need to obviously, or 4 commissions. The Harbor Commission, I think we should go to. I think the Parks and Rec Commission, because they own a lot of the beach areas. I mean, to what degree are they gonna want to approve these plans? At what point do they want to see them? Do they want to see them after we've approved them and then they get a chance to approve them? The Conservation Commission and obviously Planning and Zoning. So those were the 4 I think we need to. Are there any others that you think we need to actively reach out to? And if so, I'd like a volunteer from each of you to attend a commission in the next month or 2. I don't think there's any urgency, but I want them to know.
I think Shellfish.
I was just thinking shellfish.
Call John. I don't know. If
Yeah.
we're talking about, on one of the points was bringing sand in from the sandbar and things like that. I don't know. It might be a stretch. It was just something else.
Well, you know what? I'd rather over talk to people than not. I mean, the problem is we kind of want to go to them when we have the ideas, as opposed to, I was thinking right now we go to them and just say, hey, we're doing this. This is when we think we'll have ideas. When do you want to look at them? Do you want to be brought in early, or do you want when we've kind of got a better sense of it?
Do any of the rivers or tributaries that we're talking about evaluating run through either of the universities?
Good question.
No.
Yeah, Sacred Heart.
Sacred Heart, right.
Well, there's a big parking lot, right?
Yeah.
They just built a new parking lot on Park Avenue,
Just
right
a thought.
past the river, but
Yeah.
it's not through the university itself.
But any of the tributaries even? I don't think it goes through,
They're all downhill.
yeah.
They're all no.
As far as them being impacted?
I'm just informed. I mean, what happens if we do all this work and all of a sudden there's one particular, route that goes through the university and they don't know about it, and all of a sudden we've done all this work and it's still.
Sorry, you can't go through that.
They say, no, you can't come in and change the makeup of the university or whatever, and.
They hope that they can't come to Clancy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about property owners, right, in town,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I think we should also reach out to the neighborhood associations too, and just do a letter to all the neighborhood associations and say, I just want you to be aware we're doing this, and depending on which neighborhood association you are, you may be impacted. So, we will be getting concepts out to you, and we hope you would share that with your associations.
I already have those on a list, so I volunteer, and then you guys can volunteer for one of the other commissions. But I'll do the neighborhoods. There are 18 of them in town, by the way.
What are they?
Some of them are more active than others, but,
Well, the FBRA, for example, would be a really critical one to engage, I think, given all the coastal stuff we're doing. And
I want to talk to you later about stakeholders, by the way.
Okay.
That hasn't happened,
Okay.
which is pretty
It'll be
annoying.
similar to Keith County, even though he's got a lot of backup that'll be independent. I think the Mill River watershed, I think it's a little slight. And I don't know if there's true issue there or not.
I don't think there's much I have not heard major flooding complaints from people along the river.
We should, not only for this project, but for the board, I think we should try to endeavor with that open spot to see if we can get somebody who lives along it or has knowledge of it.
Okay. So, who volunteers to take each of these commissions, Harbor, Parks and Rec, Conservation, Planning and Zoning, and Shellfish? Can I get a volunteer from any?
I'll talk to Don at Harbor, I know him.
Harbor, okay.
I could do conservation.
Thank you. Shellfish, Planning and Zoning, Parks and Rec?
I don't know any of these people.
I don't either, I'll talk to somebody, but I don't know.
I mean, I know the guy at Shellfish too.
John Short?
Yeah, I know John. So I can follow.
Okay, you'll do those two.
I'll do Harbor and John.
So we need just Parks and Rec and Planning and Zoning. And I think what I was gonna suggest is go to one of their meetings in the next month or two and just when they come to the last part where they ask for public comment, just say, I'm here on behalf of flood prevention, climate resilience, and erosion control board. And I want to let you know that we're doing this, and I will give you the schedule so you can say, here's when we think we'd like to come back to you and share some ideas. How involved do you want to get? And just get their sense so that they don't feel blindsided. They don't feel like they were left out.
I think
Yeah, I can do Parks and Rec, I guess.
Harbor
Parks and Rec.
today.
But there should be like a set of bullet points.
Why don't we do who wants to do the set of bullet points?
I'm not sure.
I'll do the set of bullet points.
Yeah, that's not my.
But can you do planning and zoning? Would you be willing to do? Okay.
Or can we just talk directly to like, is it Anthony, is it Parks and Rec, and
Yeah.
just,
I mean, I would do the commission, as opposed to, I mean, he's obviously the head of Parks and Rec, but I would do the
He's the
commission.
chief of community services.
I would go to the commission, because they're commission members that, you know, presumably, I don't know if Anthony reports into them or not, I mean, but it's,
Might be just like conservation, where you have a conservation director and then a commission,
yeah,
right?
I think there'll be both. And usually the director goes to those meetings,
Oh, yeah.
so you'd be getting
Well,
Anthony.
we'll reach out to Tim Bishop first and see
Yeah.
how he thinks it's best to approach him.
That sounds good, yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna just show up cold in
No.
it.
Yeah,
yeah,
Right.
I'll do the same thing. I'll
yeah.
call Anthony.
Talk to Anthony and just say, hey,
Who should I talk to at planning and zoning?
oh, Emmeline,
Oh, okay.
who is now the new, director of planning and
Not
zoning.
yet,
Keep it simple.
Not yet?
April 1st.
Oh, April first.
Who's the new director?
Emmeline,
Oh, good for her.
yeah,
And do we know who'll be assistant director yet?
no.
Yeah, they didn't.
I think the commission feels that they want to be part of the interview process, is what I heard, but I don't know if it's,
Tim had been here, what, 35 years?
he's been here a long time,
Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah, well, it was a huge number.
yeah.
Almost as old as me.
All right,
The other, only one of the things, with the associations, I had asked, I forget who, at one of those meetings, geographically, how those are lined up. So some of them are coastal, some of them are river, and some of them have nothing to do with flooding, you know, so we don't need to worry about it. Is there a way of coming up with a map so that we can map that out?
Well, it's all geographic, and if you, I could point you to, on the web page, it will, because there used to be, there's like a South Benson group, so
there's a Pine Creek.
There's
There's a pine
there's
group,
a listing of all of them.
there's a listing of them, and there's the Stratfield list, and, I mean, it's very geographic. If you look at the
Which
18, neighborhood organizations, although Fair Acres may be not listed, I mean, you might not know where Fair Acres is, we know our.
Yeah, they're not,
now,
they're just listed in, I think alphabetical order, but.
But there's like Greenfield Hills area, I mean, it's pretty geographic by name in the 18 organization, in the neighborhood.
Each one calls them,
Each one
by
calls
their
themselves pretty,
geographic
like
area.
it's the Stratfield Association, so you know where Stratfield is, and, I mean, Fairfield Beach Residents Association, because it's beach, you know where it is. But you have a much better, there's not a separate Rooster River Neighborhood Association listed on
Right,
the webpage.
that's what I'm trying to say, is that
Correct.
if we had, at least to identify which ones of those are on the Rooster River would be very helpful. Well, and, Mill Creek, Mill River, and on Sasko Creek, those are three. that-
Well, Southport would be Sasko Creek, and they have the South Quinac, Association.
Right,
Is that
if
listed?
somebody could either
I don't
tell
think-
me what they are, or.
Sasquatch is more downtown Southport, not Pine
Keith,
Creek.
I'll try to see
No, no,
if I
no,
can
Southport.
find
He was
it
saying
from the
Southport.
webpage, the town webpage, because it has the name of the organization, if they have a leader, and how to reach them.
Mhm.
Many of them have an email address, some are, you know, like Old Post Road is, there's, it's a different,
It's on the town.
but but it's pretty recognizable by what the name of the organization is. But I'll send that to you.
Thank you.
But obviously, if Becky does these bullets, it would be great that we're all using the same bullets
Oh,
as we
yeah.
go, and we use it, and that would be easy for me to send to the association, because I'm not gonna visit all 18,
Yeah.
but for you as well, to your river folks. So we're all on the same page.
Okay, next agenda item, moving us along, reviewing input from the public meetings. I have not gotten the second set of minutes. David Murphy did a more complete set of minutes than the ones that we did, and he actually listed a lot of the comments that we got. So I have not gotten that from him. I will
Did he
follow
send
up.
you one from the first meeting?
Yes, and
Oh.
I will be putting that on the website,
Okay.
you know, in the whole document section that we're gonna have. I can send that out to this group too, if you want. It was just a recap of the meeting. But he did have the stickies, all the people who wrote stickies, he incorporated them into the minutes. So I have to follow up with Dave Murphy to get the,
That would be useful, because
Second.
all you saw was the last slide of the presentation while everybody else was talking. I think I have it memorized now.
Oh dear.
Wow.
My wife walked by like 3 times, she's like, are they gonna advance the slides? And I'm going, I don't know, that was the last slide.
That was comments or something, right? Or-
No, it was just the voices, and
Oh.
I had to turn on the closed captions so that I could.
So you could hear what people were saying.
Music.
Well, sometimes, only when somebody was talking, it would say music.
All right, the next item, and last item is to hear, consider, and act upon any other business which will properly come before the board. I do not have any other business. Does anyone else have any other business?
Well, I think I would like to put onto that, this idea about filling the empty spot, Don's empty spot. We're trying to find somebody from one of these neighborhood associations that maybe is adjacent to an area that might be an erosion or a flood risk area, and targeting those associations to dig somebody out of that, like we did with Brewster River and some of the other areas. I think that
Didn't
might.
I see on one of the emails, somebody was offering themselves?
Yeah, he's another beach guy. I think we got.
Oh,
I think we
okay.
got enough.
We've got a lot of beach people. We're pretty, we've got too many
I got this
beaches.
seat over here reserved for
Yeah.
somebody on the
Well,
road.
if you're open to ideas.
The only other thing that I'd also, either or, would be another engineering, more of a technical person. I know we've got Greg, which is great, and he's been super helpful so far, but I think, having another engineering person, I would also feel could be
Technical, yeah.
another technical person, so someone with an engineering degree. And that doesn't have to be a professional engineer, but just someone with a degree that could, evaluate technical solutions. So that would be another priority.
Actually, didn't, sorry to interrupt.
What?
No, you were just talking about an email, George Paci, P-A-C-I?
Yeah,
He's
but
He's
like I said, he's a guy who live on Lally. We got Ian here, for Lally.
No, George
We got
Pacey, sorry.
No, Pacey is
Paci
Brewster
was
River. He's Brewster River.
Limbo.
Limbo.
Oh, yeah, he's another Brewster River, okay.
Good guy.
Yeah.
And he's the
Workers
person
in the emergency.
who offered up, said he was interested in sitting on the board.
Oh, okay.
He did? When?
Terrific.
Yeah, we
Good
think
guy.
you're all aboard.
Maybe I'm mixing up the emails, but I thought he was.
I saw the one that came in yesterday, I think it was, and he was the.
Okay.
He was the one that
Lally
sent you
Bowl.
on his, slides.
Okay, and he said he wanted to be a board member?
I didn't mention that to me directly, but I believe there was an email about it somewhere.
I will go, he has to fill out the stuff with Jen Carpenter. This is, anyone who wants to be on the board, is how it works. And they fill out the board, form.
Someone, I just probably need to tell him that.
I will go look at, if that came in through the,
Came in through the,
I saw it come in saying he was sending slides, but I didn't see.
Yeah, and now I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, he sent some slides about Brewster River, and then he sent a follow-up message
Right.
about those slides. I don't
Right.
think he was the one that said anything about the board,
Yeah,
but
perhaps I've got him mixed up with somebody else.
If you
I'll
offer,
go
he'd
back.
be somebody who'd be pretty good.
I'll go back and look at,
Well,
the fellow-
He wrote an email, so,
so we've got this.
the fellow who was at Lally was Manish Jain.
Yeah.
Manish Jain, that came in,
Oh, and he does have a civil engineering degree, but he's not a professional engineer, in the sense that he has,
plays well on TV.
You're right, you found that's the right. Sorry.
because I did talk with him, because he called, and he is a banker, as opposed to, but he does have a civil engineering degree, so at least he would be,
On the corner, maybe?
Oh, I will.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where
It had the address in it, he put his address in it, let me tell you.
400 Lally Boulevard.
There you
It
go.
could be him, yeah, on the corner, yeah. It could be.
So he's
I will also tell you.
On the corner of Lally and Alden.
So he's another beach.
No, that's not 400. It's Lally?
Edward, maybe Lally and.
Edward,
Lally
probably,
and
Edward.
Going down on the right.
On the right side?
Edward.
The beach side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that could be.
One other thing that I saw at the Shellfish, they got approval, as you went through that whole hassle to get additional members added to this board. They went through and they added in junior non-voting members that allowed people who were younger to be part of the board as well. And that might be another way to build out Greg's technical expertise, is to have a junior person, who has technical background.
Yeah.
But just another thought.
How junior are we talking about?
At the Shellfish, they were open to anything. you know, they were not looking for technical.
Well, I think we have two spots. We have an alternate spot and a full-time spot open. So there's two actual spots.
There's someone we know, and then I put him forth, but he's doing his master's in crustacean studies up at University of New Haven or something like this. So I put him to John Short to become the junior member, and they're like, we want you as a full member. He knows more about shellfish than anybody that's sitting on the, we know how to catch them. This guy knows what's going on. So they were gonna try and angle him in using this junior board member capability.
All right, no other business to come before the board?
I got a question on the questions. I'm assuming when I read some of these, I would think that the consultants would be doing these anyway, right? I mean,
I never make assumptions.
okay, no, that's fine. Then
Because-
I just would hope, then I wouldn't want them to think this is all
The
inclusive
limit,
either.
this is not limited to.
Yeah, because I'm concerned, these are the questions, and if
All
they're
right.
asking for something that,
We're gonna position it the right
and
way.
maybe, you know, if they're gonna give us 3 ideas or something like that, if we're telling them if we give them 2, and maybe they've got 2 or 3 other ones that aren't those, that they might not give us that idea because we told them we want this idea. So, I'm
So-
sure that makes sense to you.
I know exactly what you're saying.
So I'm
I don't wanna leave the
yeah.
witness.
Yeah, I don't wanna leave the
We're paying them
witness
for their
on that.
expertise.
And
But,
same thing.
but I also don't want them, if we have thoughts that we have evaluated,
Yeah, yeah.
like the Dick Wall, and Raised Road, I don't want them to ignore that and not give us that as an option, not evaluate that as an option.
No, I agree, maybe, and.
So
this
maybe
could
we
be
just
fine,
put some
or
caveat
maybe it's just
language in.
considerations, and we have a list of considerations not limited to, or something like
And
that.
they were at the
right?
public meeting, so they heard some of the they saw the thickies and they've heard some of the questions, so that
Yeah.
also would maybe point them in certain directions.
Yeah.
I do, what that?
They were not,
They weren't at either at the public
Oh,
meeting.
I thought they were.
Who was the,
No.
wait,
No.
who was the fellow who did the presentation?
He is actually a retained consultant that we had to help us develop the RFP and evaluate the consultants.
He's on the town side.
I thought at the
Oh.
fire station, I thought they were kind of in the middle, right, no.
I don't think any of them attended any of the
I
public
agree with
meetings.
John, I don't wanna
Yeah,
leave
so-
them, but I think consideration.
Considerations not limited to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or something, we'll just put hedge language.
Just something, just so here's some thoughts, you know, please consider, but, you know.
As
so-
you're doing your
Whatever.
your own
Yeah, let us know
evaluation.
why or why not, or
Yeah.
something like that. And the other thing too is, you know, I don't know where the 12 elevation came from. I mean, are there musts? Because I'm imagining we briefed them on 12, and then to come back and say, or 11, or 10, or, is that the right, you know, if we need it to be at a certain level,
We picked
Then-
that out of we were debating between 11 and 12 as a board.
so maybe we
We-
say,
We had,
What should it be?
Give us your recommendation.
what should it be?
well, we had a meeting with, Bill Gerber, and we sort of landed on 12, but there was no method to it, there was
Yeah,
Well,
no.
yes, it was, we landed on 12 based on the race shoreline report, where they said, the 15-year storm is gonna do this, the 20-year storm is
It was
gonna do that,
11.8.
the 50-year
It was-
storm is gonna do this, and 12 feet gave us pretty fair protection from nor'easters.
It was 11 and a half,
Yeah,
did too,
11.8
or something, so,
at
I mean,
this-
it didn't have to be all the way to
At this
12.
location, it was 11.8, at this location, it was 11.6, at this location.
It was 10.2. It was, yeah.
12.1 or something. So we kind of squint, and you said 12 feet will give us pretty good protection, not against the Cat 2 hurricane,
Right.
but against nor'easters, it'll keep a lot of the water out of our basin.
So that's fine, I'm just, if I'm them,
We gave them 12 in the
okay, so,
RFP.
but then it sounds like we might be giving them 11 too.
Well, you gotta be.
Or some other
You
number.
gotta be careful, because was that incorporated into the contract, or was in the RFP?
All right, so let's take this out.
Because.
If they think this is gonna
You're
confuse
end up
them.
with a change order.
I just think if there's a must that we have, or.
All right, I'm taking it out.
It just feels like we're not being clear, because we're saying, we asked for 12, but we'll take 11 too, and maybe there's something else we
They
can say.
could come back to us on their own if they wanted.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine, but again, leading the witnesses, you say.
Yeah, I'm
let's
taking it
get,
out.
You know,
I think we put some parameters about, and we consider it, please, you know, these are things that we think you might wanna consider amongst other things that are come to you through your
Yeah.
expertise. I think that's what we have to do. I'll tell you, after our cookies and water over at Ian's house, I called Bill and I spoke to him, and I saw him, on Sunday as well. And I talked to him about some of the discussions we had in the parking lot and some of the other things and some of, the feedback that we were getting there. And he said, no, we're paying Race to give us their expertise, right? So I appreciate all the years of experience and all the discussions and all that kind of stuff, and there's so many studies, we're paying them to extract all that, go out, do this stuff, and come back with their recommendations based on their engineering, their coastal engineering, other experience, so,
But we are not paying them to ignore those studies.
not at all.
And
No.
come up with their own
Incorporate it. Right now,
Yeah.
right now, they've just studied them all, or analyzed them
Right.
all, and they're looking at gaps, and they're trying to fill those gaps.
Right.
That's what he's looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
that's
to
kind of
belabor
what
this,
I'm
but do you
getting
know
at.
how far back the studies are going? I mean, I know we've been doing studies since.
1965 was the first one on the slides.
Which one?
65 was on the slides.
Well, that was on the presentation, but I don't know that we gave them that. That was a shore area plan.
And also, are there musts down there that we have, that they must,
Well, the musts were in the RFP.
okay, that's what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
the 12 was in the RFP too, I imagine, no?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so, then we shouldn't stray from the RFP if
Yeah.
that's what we gave them.
Yeah, it's just adds.
Not if you don't want a change order.
It probably would be a change order. So I'm taking it out, it's out, crossed off.
I think there's so much good content in that list, I think we just have to go
We'll
through
just make sure that we couch it in a way that puts it, as a suggestions for them to consider in addition to their own expertise.
Yeah. It's a good point.
Any other items? Otherwise,
I just want to
would
give
take
one
some-
observation that I've heard now consistently from people that I've talked to on these site visits, that yes, some of it is the Rooster River, but the biggest piece, or a big piece, are the drains. The drains are where the water comes from.
The catch basins.
No.
Or you mean
The storm
Storm
drain,
drains, and then
the manhole covers, which is the,
You gotta remember, 60 years ago, the industry standard was designed for a 10-year storm. And they didn't have an engineering standard of a 10-year storm that we have today. Now your minimum standard for anything is a 25-year storm. So you've got all this infrastructure, plus after those were designed for a 10-year storm, then the upland watershed got developed, so you've got twice as much water coming down as what they even designed for back then.
But I also thought, the other thing that I got from Dick and all about how do you get the water out, is gonna be, if you're cutting down how much water comes in from up above the upland, but it's really the determinant's gonna be getting the water out.
It's a decades, if not centuries long practice, because we cannot stop flooding, that's gonna happen.
Yep.
The flooding problems are because people wanna live in areas that are prone to flooding. What we can try to do is mitigate the frequency and intensity of the flooding.
Exactly.
We cannot make it go away. We're also burdened by 100 years or more of infrastructure, at least half of which, if not more than that, was put in before there was any consideration, because there wasn't an understanding of what the situation was. And Fairfield Beach Road, for example, was developed in the 20s and 30s largely as summer cottages for business people in Bridgeport, so that they would come and set their family up here for the summer, because people didn't have air conditioning. And you know what? If the road flooded, who cared? The kids went and swam in the road instead of in Long Island Sound. That's not the reality.
and there was no
anymore.
furniture that anyone cared about,
Yeah.
that came across.
That didn't go up there till like 1980 or something,
Yeah.
up the road.
So we're dealing with a lot of history, a lot of inertia, both emotional and financial. And all we can do is try to mitigate the frequency and intensity of the problems which will exist.
So let me that brings up another point. So I pushed Emmeline pretty hard on minimizing development in the floodplain. I said, you cannot continue to allow these developers to come in and take a single-family home and make a duplex. You're just adding people, you're adding
Flow.
And she said we need housing. So now we've got an 830G that's coming in on Reef Road. The proposal was for 45 units where there are 2 single-family homes.
Right.
45 units. It's like, and we can't stop that because it's an 830G apparently.
Because
It's an 830G, but we can stop the duplexes and stuff. And then I got some pushback because you know, we're doing some, Mark Bartonhart wants to put a couple Habitat for Humanity duplexes in, again, where there's single-family homes in the beach area, which is, again, increasing intensity. So what is our role as flood and erosion to push back on that? I mean, I support affordable housing. I absolutely support it, but not, just shouldn't be in the beach area adding density. I just feel like that's a recipe for more congestion and crowding and risk. But do we want to take a stand on this? What's the feeling of the board?
I would say yes. It's a danger to the people who are living there.
Well, obviously, we have to take into consideration the impacts that it'll have on flood and erosion, but we also have to do it in such a way so that the town isn't put at risk for an inverse condemnation by someone saying, you're not allowing me to develop my property, that's a take, I'll take a check, thank you very much.
Yeah. Can we, I wonder if we can try to do some research in other towns on what they have done in floodplains, if they have put any regulations in that minimizes development. That
Well, first off, you can't put any regulations in to prevent 830G, that's a state
that one,
statute
I
as
know,
of right.
we're stuck with that.
And one of the problems you get with increasingly restrictive zoning regulations is you make the 830G even that more attractive as a development. And that's reality. That's just a pure, simple financial reality.
It's gonna be 4 stories tall, taller than any building in the floodplain.
This is on Reef, you said?
Yeah, right on Reef, right across from Veterans Park.
Well, I mean, the hope is the moratorium, right?
The only thing I can tell you is.
It got in,
talk to
it's on the
state
docket
reps.
right now, so it's gonna be ahead of the moratorium if it gets approved.
There's 1,100 apartments on the docket right now. I mean,
Yeah.
Kathy sent me the updates and,
Yeah.
you know.
When the, assisted living was put in where the temple was, where the temple was, on,
Sonic Temple crossing the gate.
one of the things that I understood from Bill Hurley was they had to have some, plan as to how they're putting up a structure that was gonna take away a sump for the water was gonna be addressed, and apparently that was done. Now, how and what.
Well, they still have to do stormwater management. They have to prove how they're gonna manage stormwater management. They would still have to do that. Even an 830G would have to do that.
Even now, permits to build on houses need the Coltech, stuff put in and all that, so that's not just that temple, but also any of the residential.
They've been doing that in Fairfield for
a handful of years.
about 50 years that I'm aware of.
Didn't do much good though.
Yeah,
No, in terms of how it's, how new flooding is happening.
How many units are there?
So Becky, when you're asked whether the board would take
I just see
some
plans right
action,
now, right?
the one on Reef already gone through planning and zoning and it is.
It's sitting in the docket. No, it's sitting in the docket. I don't know if it's been evaluated, but it's an 830G option that is on their agenda. I don't know if it's gone through all of the hearings. I haven't followed it that closely.
I tend to agree with Greg's approach on this, and this is something we faced in Mill River. We get pulled into this all the time. They hear wetlands, every neighborhood that has an 830G thing going up, they ring my phone, they email me, and they say, you know, we saw a vernal pool, you know, get out here, you know, stop this 830G. And we also appreciate multi-family dwellings, which is better for the environment, it just is. But we're not gonna get dragged into the political side of this. We will come in and talk about if it's proximate to the Mill River, it's gonna have an impact on the wetland. So I think what you're saying about the impact on our ability to protect the town, which is what this commission's job is a sweet spot from us, I think, from a legal argument to comment, but we have to be, I think, very concise about it, because if it gets gray, people, you may get accused of, you know, getting political about it, or something like that, or weighing in on the state statute, versus
I don't think we can do
purely
anything.
on the impact to erosion, to resiliency, you know, to that.
I don't think we have anything that we can say on 830G on that site necessarily that would.
Well, not just that site, I'm saying in general, right? There's 1,100 units in front of the TPZ now.
right? Because they're blasting them in there.
Yeah,
You know,
and they wanna get them before the moratorium.
People are fighting over whether or not they actually have to go through them all during the TPZ,
Right.
because there's so many they'll never get through them before the moratorium.
Yeah. Did you?
Does 830G, wouldn't they be held to the same height restriction as?
Nope, they're allowed to go
No, they have
outside
a
of
risk,
it. They can ignore our zoning.
So
You gotta look it up. You
basically,
gotta
the
read
height
it.
restriction is how high a ladder does the fire department have?
Wow.
Yeah, so
yeah,
they will be
it's
higher
really
than any
human-
building in the
Human
future.
risk and possible, risk to the, wetlands, really.
Traffic, flooding, obviously.
Safety is the only thing you can get them on.
There's wetlands behind that, aren't there?
The marsh.
It's on the-
It's on the dump side, there's some, right?
Oh, is it on the dump side?
It's going down, Reed, what I
On the right?
understood, it's on the right,
Yeah.
after the, I think,
Yeah.
right after the dump road, the next,
Yeah.
the next two houses, like not.
WPCA's back there.
But are they allowed to go into wetlands?
No.
No.
So it probably doesn't, I'm sure it probably stays
When
just
it
right,
gets sent to the
right out of
Conservation
it.
Department,
Yeah.
the wetlands group, which makes.
The inland wetlands can stop it, because they have state
But it's
statutes.
gotta be,
It's gotta be based on fact.
I don't think this is in a wetlands, actual.
That one's close, but not
It might be close.
people.
Anyway.
Can it
No,
flood?
that's
Can the
not- that's not
wetlands flood?
inland wetlands.
No.
That's not inland wetlands, you're talking about brackish water there.
That's still technically wetlands.
Inland wetlands, it has to go before the inland wetlands?
Well, that's the
There's
inland
kind of,
wetlands
if
commission.
there's tidal wetlands, there's almost certainly, inland wetlands fringe. It's very rare, other than direct shoreline, where you have, tidal
Yeah,
wetlands
I think
come
we're
up,
done.
and then that's it. There's almost always, sometimes it's only 2 or 3 feet, but it's an
Oh, yeah.
inland wetland fringe that can be regulated by the town.
All right, so I think we've probably talked this one enough. I don't think there's an action item coming out of this. So why don't we, make a motion to adjourn? Because that's the end of our agenda for today.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
So moved, so we are adjourning at 8:26, according to that, 27, according to my watch. All right, thank you all very much. I will figure out how to stop this recording in a minute.